LeBron sexuals, they aren't just rooting for a player, they're orbiting him, like moons, stuck in a gravity well of highlight reels and advanced metrics. LeBron could switch teams mid-season, and these fans would rebrand faster than a crypto rug pull. Lakers, Cavaliers, Heat, it doesn't matter. If he laced up for a rec league in Guam, they'd be buying jerseys in 12 different colors. It's loyalty, but like on performance-enhancing drugs. These fans treat criticism of LeBron like it's a personal attack on their bloodline. Someone brings up that 4-6 finals record, suddenly it's a symposium on poor roster construction, uneven refereeing, and the plight of misunderstood superstar. Say LeBron's not clutch, and they'll drag out game winners from 15 years ago like a magician pulling scarves from their sleeve. The narrative gets spun harder than a laundromat on Black Friday. Their favorite pastime is defending LeBron's place in the GOAT argument, usually by launching digital fireballs at Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant fans. It's like watching a courtroom drama, except the only evidence allowed is VORP and player efficiency rate. Advanced stats are their holy scripture. If LeBron breathes, there's a stat proving he did it better than anyone else in NBA history. Now when it comes to team success, that's not the hill they're dying on. Nope, they're all about individual greatness. LeBron could lose a series, but if he dropped a triple-double, his fans are out there declaring moral victory. It's not about rings, it's about the journey, or whatever philosophical cope helps them sleep after another playoff exit. And man, do they love the longevity angle. You'd think LeBron invented time. Turning 41? Who cares? He's still scoring 25 a night. Meanwhile, other players are learning how to pronounce Achilles in physical therapy. They treat his age like a flex. Your guy retired by 35? LeBron's bench pressing the sun at 40. Cool. Also slightly terrifying. Let's talk about their debate tactics. Imagine a meme, a spreadsheet, and a conspiracy theory had a baby. That's a LeBron sexual argument. 1 second they're citing player efficiency ratings, next they're claiming Kevin Durant cheated by existing. Context doesn't stand a chance. It's selective memory with a Wi-Fi connection. They're especially active during playoff time. You'll see memes of LeBron wearing a crown, dunking on the entire cast of Space Jam, or photoshopped into Mount Rushmore. They're relentless. A 30-point blowout loss? Doesn't matter. They'll upload a 10-minute compilation of LeBron's assists and call it a documentary on greatness. Every rival's achievement instantly devalued. Steph Curry has rings? Well, he had help. Durant's titles? Those were pre-assembled. If another player excels, these fans become forensic analysts, digging into how it doesn't really count. It's like if LeBron didn't do it, it shouldn't exist in the record books. They also cling to the struggle narrative. Born in Akron, hyped since high school, chosen one, these talking points get recycled more than your local compost bin. It's always about how he rose above adversity, like every opposing team was the final boss in a video game. The pressure argument is their favorite. No one else had to live up to this much hype. Right, because Jordan wasn't busy selling out arenas and launching a sneaker empire while winning championships. Totally different. Then there's the cherry picking. If you want stats with context, go elsewhere. LeBron sexuals serve you the ones that sparkle, like player efficiency rating, but only when it ranks LeBron above someone. Or playoff wins, as long as you don't ask about how many came in the bubble. If they can't win the argument, they'll pivot to things like philanthropy, or say LeBron could have been a Hall of Fame tight end, movie star, and president if he wanted to. Multiverse logic, no cap. One of the wildest things is how they act like they're the only real fans, calling everyone else a bandwagoner, while hopping teams like they're chasing frequent flyer miles. Miami in 2012, Cleveland in 2016, Lakers by 2018. It's fandom by Airbnb. Online, it's full-time chaos. They swarm threads, quote stats like they're getting paid per decimal, and create memes with the urgency of someone defusing a bomb. If someone tweets a mild criticism, you can expect a digital avalanche of goat emojis, stats, and edits of LeBron dunking over history itself. It's performance art at this point. Even their praise gets extra. LeBron sexuals have claimed he could win an Oscar, run for office, and cure disease if he ever got bored. The man could post a smoothie recipe and someone's calling him the smartest human alive. You almost admire the commitment until you remember he just posted an emoji and it caused a 4-day argument on Reddit. So yeah, LeBron sexuals are a lot. They're passionate, they're loud, they're armed with stats, and they have the emotional range of a soap opera cast. They're not rooting for a team, they're running a campaign. And the only platform that matters, the GOAT debate. Analytics nerds. These fans treat basketball like it's a science fair project, not a sport. Forget emotion, forget storylines. If it's not in a spreadsheet, it doesn't count. You could show them a buzzer beater and they'd respond with a table explaining why the shot had low expected value. These folks are the human version of Excel formulas, and they are thriving. Their obsession with advanced stats is legendary. Player efficiency rating, true shooting percentage, box plus minus, VRP, they collect them like Pokemon cards. Say a player dropped 30 points, and they'll ask about the true shooting percentage before even reacting. If a shot goes in, but the expected shot quality says it shouldn't have, they'll wince like someone just spilled red wine on a white couch. These guys do not care about the eye test. You can bring up clutch gene or killer instinct, and they'll just point you to a scatter plot. To them, basketball greatness is a math problem, not a vibe. Jordan's aura, cute. They've got LeBron's VORP bookmarked and framed. The more emotional your take, the more likely they'll reply with a 10-paragraph thread explaining why you're statistically incorrect and possibly illiterate. Efficiency over flash is their whole personality. They'll take Nikola Jokic casually flipping in layups over Russell Westbrook's rim-rattling dunks every time. Why? Because that layup came with a 68% true shooting. Westbrook's dunk? Well, sorry. It wasn't efficient enough. They don't care if it made the crowd scream. They care if it made the win shares go up. They've also got a weird love for obscure stats. If you've ever heard someone unironically say his LeBron is off the charts, you've met one. They don't just look at points, rebounds, and assists. They're citing assist points created, box adjusted, plus minus, and something called LeBron that sounds like it belongs in a Jurassic Park sequel. They're the only people alive who will passionately argue that Draymond Green is more valuable than someone who averages 30 points just because of defensive win shares. You say he only scores 10 a game, they say he's the backbone of the system. You say he's volatile, they pull out a net rating chart. It's like arguing with a sentient calculator. And man, do they live for online debates. Reddit, X, obscure forums. They're out there, posting bar graphs like it's going out of style. You want to argue MVP? They've got a folder labeled, Why Jokic is the MVP for the next 100 years. Inside, graphs, equations, some tears probably. They don't trust traditional awards. They think voters are all swayed by charisma and Instagram followers. When Embiid won MVP in 2023, they reacted like someone kicked over their servers. Jokic had better stats. Jokic had higher efficiency. Jokic once smiled at a puppy. Doesn't matter. If the math says he's better, he's better. Role players are their love language. You're watching Luka drain threes, they're focused on Alex Caruso's deflections. You want dunks, they want hustle stats. Bridges, Caruso, Williams, these guys are like folk heroes in stat geek culture. If you contribute efficiently and never make mistakes, you're their kind of guy. They also hate casual fans. If you show up to a debate talking about points per game, they'll sigh audibly through the screen. Use a highlight as evidence, you're done. They throw around phrases like, watch the film and learn what effective field goal percentage means with all the patience of a librarian during finals week. They genuinely worship analysts. You mention Zach Lowe or Ben Taylor and their eyes light up. Their holy trinity is probably 538, The Ringer, and Cleaning the Glass. These blogs are cited in arguments more often than the Declaration of Independence in a history class. You'll hear wild takes like Drew Holiday is a top 3-point guard based on a stat no one else understands. And they'll back it up with so much data, you'll start doubting your own existence. Forget highlight reels. They want assist to turnover ratios and LeBron scores that sound like someone made them up during a fever dream. Even their jokes are math-based. When someone drops 30 inefficient points, they'll say, cool box score. Want a cookie? That's their version of trash talk. If a player's plus minus is negative, it's like a personal offense. They'll drag a whole career just because of 1 year with a low box plus minus. To them, the sport isn't about championships or emotion. It's about maximizing value per possession. You could save a puppy mid-game and they'd ask how it affected your win shares. They're passionate, analytical, and deeply unfun at parties. Analytics nerds aren't watching for storylines or legacy. They're watching for statistical outliers and normalized shooting variants, and they're gonna tell you about it, whether you asked or not. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm gonna be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, randoms lovers. These are the fans who skip the main course and head straight for the weird little snacks on the side. While everyone else is arguing about MVPs and superstars, these folks are passionately defending a guy who averaged 6 points a game and once tied his shoe during a fast break. They live for the players you've forgotten existed until you scrolled to the bottom of the roster. They're obsessed with obscure role players. You bring up LeBron, they counter with Tony Snell. Not because he's better, obviously, but because Tony once played 28 minutes and recorded zeros across every stat line. To randoms lovers, that's not a failure. That's performance art. They admire it the way other people admire jazz. It's not about what you do, it's about what you don't. They love inconsistency. One night, it's a 50-50-100 shooting split. The next, it's a stat sheet that looks like he napped through the game. They don't care. Players like Robin Lopez tossing up weird hooks from the year '85, that's their Super Bowl. Gerald Green, airballing a dunk attempt before draining 5 threes, a masterpiece. Off-court stories are everything. JaVale McGee being a walking blooper reel who still got 3 rings, that's peak content. They love the humanity, the messiness, the awkward charisma of these players. It's less about what they do and more about who they are. They're also nostalgia monsters. If a player had one oddly memorable season, they're immortalized forever. Kwame Brown's revenge year with the Bobcats, Marbury's Celtics vacation, where he averaged under 4 points. Random's lovers talk about those like they're sacred texts. They know your favorite player's stat line, but they remember the time Brian Cardinal dove into the scorer's table up 30 in a preseason game. The moment a guy like Snell goes 0 across the board, the Photoshop machines fire up. There's Tony holding up a blank piece of paper, or JaVale McGee superimposed onto an actual cartoon. They make jokes, sure, but there's affection underneath all of it. It's like roasting your favorite cousin. Underdogs are their bread and butter. You think someone like Nas Reed is just another rotation guy? Wrong. He's a bench legend with cult status. They'll hype up his 11.5 points and 5.2 boards like it's a finals MVP resume. They're not looking for greatness. They're looking for effort, charm, and a dash of chaos. Stat quirks are basically fan gold. If a player had a 50-50-100 shooting season, they're building shrines. Tony Snell did that in 2021, and you'd think he reinvented basketball. Random's lovers remember that? They cherish that. They will bring it up in unrelated arguments because it just lives in their heads rent-free. These fans aren't tied to a team. They follow players across cities like nomads chasing vibes. Snell from Chicago to Portland, they're right there with him. Boris Diaw from Phoenix to San Antonio, still cheering. They're not franchise loyalists. They're player pilgrims, hopping from one random jersey to the next. They've got a million one-liners. Tony Snell got a paycheck for cardio. Nas Reed is pure vibes. JaVale McGee is my chaotic king. They say it with the deadpan humor of someone who knows it's ridiculous, but means it anyway. You won't hear debates about all NBA snubs. You'll hear someone passionately explaining why Mark Hendrickson was the real two-sport legend, not Deion Sanders. Their debates are less who's the GOAT and more who had the funniest stat line in 2017. They'll throw around obscure facts like Brian Cardinal once took a charge in a charity game, or that Devo's hustle rate was off the charts during a February back-to-back. It's not about winning, it's about having the most interesting take. They fight hard for their favorites, especially when those favorites are fighting for relevance. Snell's push for a 10th NBA season just to get retiree benefits, Random's lovers led that campaign like it was a social justice crusade. They don't care about legacy, they care about people. They live on Reddit threads, meme pages, and basketball reference deep dives. You won't find them front row at a finals game. You'll find them arguing about Mikal Bridges plus minus in a preseason scrimmage. They bring spreadsheets to a joke fight and still make it fun. So yeah, Random's lovers are weird, loyal, hilarious, and absolutely unstoppable. While everyone else is watching the stars, they're focused on the guys doing the gritty work behind the scenes, or just doing weird stuff on camera. Either way, they're enjoying the game on their own weird frequency. If guys fans, these are the dreamers of NBA discourse, the ones who live permanently in alternate timelines where knees don't explode and feet don't betray greatness. They're emotionally attached to futures that never happen. Bring up Derrick Rose, and they'll start rattling off stats like he's still 22 and about to dethrone the big three. These fans don't mourn what was. They mourn what could have shattered history. They are obsessed with the broken blueprints. To them, Tracy McGrady was on a direct path to basketball royalty until his back started acting like a folding chair. Yao Ming, a generational big whose feet had the structural integrity of a breadstick. Brandon Roy, Grant Hill, Greg Oden. They're not just players, they're monuments to unrealized greatness. If guys fans treat every MRI like a Greek tragedy, you'll find them deep in Reddit threads or X debates, writing novels about playoff runs that never happened. Rose's ACL tear in 2012, to them, that's when the Bulls dynasty that never existed got cut short. They remember he was dropping 25 points and 7 assists a night and leading a team to 62 wins. That's not just history, it's a point of religion. And if you even hint that Tracy McGrady choked in the playoffs, you're asking for a lecture. They'll pull up his 31.7 average against the Pistons and remind you his best teammate was Mike Miller. McGrady fans have trauma, but they also have receipts. All you need to say is 13 points in 35 seconds, and they'll enter a trance. Yao Ming fans, they're built different. They remember when he averaged 25 points a game while standing 7'6" and still moving like a guard. And if you say he underachieved, they'll hit you with every foot injury, every summer of Chinese national team duty, and then ask why his statue isn't already in front of the Hall of Fame twice. These fans live for speculation. Could McGrady and Yao have taken down the Spurs if they stayed healthy? Absolutely. Could Rose have outdueled LeBron in the East Finals? Of course. They talk about these things with more certainty than actual NBA champions. They don't see hypotheticals. They see stolen legacies. They defend these players' reputations with wild intensity. If you say Rose was a one-hit wonder, they'll remind you of that 27-point playoff run in 2011. Call McGrady ringless, and they'll say his back gave out before his talent ever did. Say Yao was overrated, and suddenly they're citing his 06 season like it was gospel. They're also emotionally tied to the storylines. Rose was the hometown kid who actually lived up to the hype until his body betrayed him. McGrady was the smoothest scorer who never had a healthy roster. Yao carried a country's expectations on his size 20 shoe. These stories aren't just interesting, they're tragic epics to these fans. And yes, they cry at highlight reels. Show them Rose's 50-point game in 2018 and they'll tell you he won MVP all over again. Watch McGrady hit those 4 threes in 35 seconds and they'll start talking about alternate dimension. Yao hitting fadeaways over Shaq, that's poetry, not just basketball. They love imagining duos that never got their full run. McGrady and Yao with full health, title threats. Rose and Jimmy Butler for a decade, Eastern Conference kings. They'll argue those combinations would have flipped dynasties, changed legacies, and rewritten the record books. They say things like, if Rose had LeBron's knees, he'd have 3 MVPs and a statue in every city. Or give McGrady a healthy spine and a Shaq. And he's outscoring Jordan. And they are not joking. These takes are fueled by grief and Google Sheets. To them, these players aren't failed projects. They're icons who just got cursed. And they will defend them like knights in an imaginary medieval league. If you're not ready to argue Yao's 25-point per game season or Rose's 2011 player efficiency rating, then just log off. It's safer. They post hypothetical lineups like they're manifesting a reality. A team with Grant Hill, Rose, McGrady, Yao, and Brandon Roy. That's the Avengers. Injuries didn't just hurt those players, they hurt basketball itself, according to this fan base. You'll find If Guys fans hoarding mixtapes, highlight reels, and what if articles like treasured relics. They don't follow current NBA news. They follow timelines that broke in the early 2000s and never recovered. So yeah, they're loyal, delusional, poetic, and extremely online. And if you ask them who's the greatest ever, they might just say Derrick Rose. If 80s, obsessed fans. These folks don't just watch basketball, they watch time travel. If the broadcast isn't in grainy VHS quality and there aren't shorts short enough to double as denim diapers, they're not interested. They're convinced the 80s were the last time real basketball happened, and everything since has been a corporate-sponsored layup drill with Wi-Fi. They live and breathe Magic vs. Bird. Mention either one and you're about to get a PowerPoint presentation on how they saved the league from extinction. Magic's no-look passes, Bird's icy trash talk, these fans talk about it like it happened yesterday, even if they weren't alive to see it. They'll tell you the 87 finals was better than any series ever, and they've got the Nielsen numbers and a grainy highlight reel to back it up. Physicality? That's their whole identity. Hand-checking, elbow, players with actual blood on their jerseys. This was basketball, not interpretive dance. They'll bring up Bill Laimbeer like he's some mythological beast who made LeBron look like a cartoon bunny. And don't even mention foul calls. To them, flopping is a modern plague that should be punishable by public shaming and maybe mild jail time. Modern fans try to show off Steph Curry's range, and these guys respond with a Bird quote and a stat sheet from '86. They swear Bird would average 40 a game today with a one leg and a cup of black coffee in his hand. Every time someone brings up Kevin Durant, an 80s obsessed fan logs on to say, but could he survive the Jordan rules? They obsess over the old dynasties. The '86 Celtics, Showtime Lakers, Bad Boy Pistons. These squads are treated like sacred relics. They'll tell you those teams would sweep any modern contender. You can show them a team with Giannis, Curry, and Embiid, and they'll shrug and say, but have you heard of Dennis Johnson? And yes, they hate the modern game's three-point obsession. Back in their day, you had to earn every basket by wrestling a man in the paint, not jacking up threes from half court. They missed the mid-range jumper, like it was a lost art form. You mention analytics, and they look at you like you just insulted their grandma. They live in the comment sections of Reddit's Vintage NBA, posting clips of Wilkins dunks and writing emotional essays about how Kevin McHale's post moves should be taught in schools. They don't want pace and space. They want bruises, sweatbands, and center court fights that were somehow still called playoff intensity. Their loyalty to 80s players is almost absurd. They'll argue Larry Bird had better vision than any modern point guard, despite looking like he moonlighted as a high school science teacher. Magic? They say he invented joy. Jordan? Before the Gatorade and the shoes. They talk about him like he was forged in a lab to humiliate defenders and end careers. Their aesthetic is all retro everything. Give them short shorts, retro warm-up jackets, and throwback Converse sneakers. They own Celtics pennants that look like they've survived multiple wars. If it's on eBay and smells like mothballs, they want it. They don't even watch games on HD. If it's not on a glitchy VHS rip with a fuzzy CBS logo in the corner, it's not basketball. And the trash talk, they miss it like it was a long-lost friend. They talk about Bird calling his shots and dunking on people with a backhanded compliment midair. Today's players tweet emojis. Bird told you he was gonna drop 40 on you and then did it in silence with a smirk and a pair of orthopedic shoes. They say things like, the 8-6 Celtics would destroy the 2024 Warriors, and they mean it. Doesn't matter how many threes are raining down, these fans believe that passing to Kevin McHale on the block solves every basketball problem. They're not wrong, they're just stuck in a time loop. So yeah, 80s obsessed fans are a hilarious mix of romantic, delusional, and somehow still convincing. They miss when basketball was raw, unscripted, and maybe slightly dangerous. To them, the modern NBA is just basketball with training wheels, and if you disagree, just wait. They've got a Larry Bird highlight, real queued up, and they're not afraid to hit play. He just needs minutes. Fan, these are the true believers, the church of per 36-minute projections, the keepers of G League box scores. While other fan bases argue about all-stars and MVPs, these folks are writing long threads, explaining why Cam Reddish is secretly the best player on earth if someone would just let him play more than 13 minutes. They're obsessed with potential that only shows up in 5-minute bursts in preseason games. Bol hits a pull-up three and blocks a shot in garbage time. That's enough to declare him the next Giannis. They've got receipts from 2022 when he averaged 9 points and nearly 6 boards in 21 minutes. And they've been arguing ever since that all he needs is a consistent 30-minute leash to unlock his inner unicorn. Bronny James is another sacred name. He dropped 17 in a late season game against Milwaukee, and suddenly the takes are flying. He's better than Caruso right now. Never mind that he's averaging 2.3 points in 5 minutes per game. These fans are convinced that with 25 minutes a night, he's cooking every night like it's a G League game. Mac McClung fans, fully unhinged, in a good way. This guy wins the dunk contest for the 3rd time in a row, and everyone's ready to crown him king of the two-way contract. He averaged 25.7 points and 6.6 assists in the G League last season, and to these fans, that's proof he's ready to drop 20 a night in the NBA if the Magic would stop playing actual NBA players. And then there's Cam Reddish, the patron saint of He Just Needs Minutes Twitter. He's been on the verge of a breakout since Duke. His fans will tell you he locked up Paul George one time in 2023, which in their minds makes him a two-way star who's just waiting for a coach brave enough to let him shine. These fans are powered by per 36 stats, like it's a new religion. Bol's 13.8 points and 8.8 boards per 36. That's all NBA in their world. Bronny's 22 per 36 in the G League. Instant starter. They treat those numbers like they're real, like they actually happen outside of the spreadsheet dimension, where nobody gets tired or commits fouls. And if a player's not getting minutes, the coach is always to blame. Redick benches Bronny? That's sabotage. Darvin Ham played Reddish over Reeves last year? Career malpractice. They don't care about team fit, schemes, or rotation. They just know their guy would drop 15 if someone handed him the keys. They're not discouraged by missed shots or shaky stats either. Bronny could go 2 for 10, and they'll point out the good screens. McClung gets cooked on defense? Look at his hustle. Reddish shoots 39% from the field? That's just a confidence issue. More minutes will fix it. They find hope in flashes. Bronny's 30-point G League game in December 2024? Legendary. McClung's 4 perfect scores in the dunk contest? Evidence he's too talented to be wasting away in Lakeland. Bol swatting shots and hitting trail threes in Phoenix? That's unicorn behavior. They treat every good moment like a vision of the future. They post highlight clips like it's their full-time job. Bronny's corner threes, Bol's help side blocks, McClung's reverse layups. They're all in rotation on X and Reddit. YouTube mixtapes with Future Star in the title and 200,000 views? Yeah, that's their doing. These fans are relentless in the comments. Someone calls Reddish a bust. They fire back with clips from high school and reminders that he was a top 5 prospect. Bronny gets called overrated. They're quoting G League shooting splits and bringing up defensive metrics you've never heard of. And they say wild things with straight faces. Bol's a 7'2" Kevin Durant. Bronny's already a better defender than half the league. McClung's the next Curry. Cam just needs 1 full season and it's over for the league. They mean every word. They've built whole personalities on this stuff. So yeah, he just needs minutes. Fans are dramatic, overly optimistic, and completely irrational, but they're also kind of delightful. They believe in hope, hustle, and untapped greatness. They see stars where others see D, NP, and maybe, just maybe, They're right. If someone would just give their guy 25 minutes. Defense wins, championships fans. These are the people who think a properly executed closeout is more exciting than a buzzer beater. They don't care about your 30-point score. If he doesn't know how to hedge on a pick and roll or recover after a switch, then he's just out there getting cooked. These fans have one mantra, and they say it like it's gospel. Offense is optional. Defense is destiny. They live and breathe defensive stats. They can quote defensive rating, defensive box plus minus, and defensive win shares. Like they're reading bedtime stories. You mention Drew Holiday, they'll tell you he averaged nearly 2 steals per game in 2024 and locked down Kyrie Irving in the finals. Rudy Gobert, 3 blocks a game and nearly 8 rebounds. That's Defensive Player of the Year material. They don't even care if he fumbles a pass, as long as the paint stays locked. Mention Devin Booker scoring 40, and they'll ask what his matchup's field goal percentage was. Bring up Luka Doncic, dropping 33, and they'll shake their heads and quote his team's defensive rating. If your team is letting opponents score 115, these fans see it as a moral failing, a breach of basketball ethics. Their favorite players? Drew Holiday, Draymond Green, Marcus Smart, Rudy Gobert, gritty, physical, fundamentally sound. Holiday strips the ball with surgical precision. Draymond barks orders like a field gen while guarding centers and point guards in the same possession. Smart dives onto hardwood like it's a pillow top mattress. Gobert swats shots like he's playing volleyball at the net. These are their champions. Favorite teams? The 2004 Pistons. No flash, all clamps. They talk about Ben Wallace's 3 blocks per game like he personally erased the Lakers' legacy. They bring up the Pistons' defensive rating of under 88, like it was the turning point in civilization. And don't even mention offense-heavy teams unless you want to see an aneurysm in real time. The 2025 Mavericks had one of the top offensive ratings in the league and lost in the playoffs. What's the point of averaging 117 if you give up open corner threes like they're free samples? Is what these fans will scream into the void. They consume defensive highlights like it's a delicacy. Forget poster dunks. They want to see Drew Holiday stripping the ball with the clock winding down. They want Draymond tipping a pass, diving out of bounds, and saving the possession. Marcus Smart forcing a 5-second violation? Chef's kiss. YouTube videos of defensive plays have a permanent home in their browser bookmark. They are also award absolutists. Gobert winning Defensive Player of the Year for the 4th time? Deserved. Smart getting it. In 2022, redemption for all guards everywhere. They'll write long Reddit posts defending a player's block percentage like it's a doctoral thesis. Playoff flameouts? That's a team problem. The defense was sound. The offense just didn't honor the grind. They pined for the old days too. The bad boy Pistons. The Duncan-era Spurs. The days when basketball was physical and fouls had consequences. When a 3-point attempt came with bruises, not just a flailing arm. They will swear that the 1989 Pistons would physically dismantle any modern team, despite the fact that today's players shoot from 35 feet like it's nothing. They get into statistical trench warfare. You bring up scoring averages, and they'll counter with Raptor scores and deflection numbers. You talk efficiency, and they're pulling up Gobert's block percentage or Holiday's defensive rating. You try to explain spacing, and they're like, okay, but who's stopping the backdoor cut? Their language is full of quotes that sound like locker room posters. Offense wins games, defense wins championships. You can't teach hustle. Gobert is a no-fly zone. Draymond is the soul of the dynasty. Holiday is what Booker wishes he could be with a clipboard in his hand. They will say, with complete seriousness, give me 5 Bruce Bowens, and we're going undefeated. So yeah, defense wins championships fans are intense, nerdy, and occasionally insufferable. But they believe in the little things. The box out that no one notices. The help side rotation that saves the possession. The clutch steal that swings the game. In their world, glory isn't found in highlights. It's in the stop that no one saw coming. Trade machine maniac. These are the digital GMs, the armchair architects, the unlicensed capologists who spend more time on Fanspo than most actual front offices. They are the spreadsheet warriors who believe the real NBA action happens not on the court, but in the simulate trade button. They don't just watch basketball, they rearrange it. These fans know the NBA's collective bargaining agreement better than the average lawyer knows divorce law. You casually suggest the Lakers trade for a star? They're already typing. That violates the second apron rule. And the Lakers are hard capped after LeBron's $39 million deal. If you don't know the difference between a traded player exception and a biannual exception, they will mock you, politely, but with malice. They obsess over trades the way normal people obsess over food or shelter. You'll find them creating 4-team trades involving obscure veterans, protected picks, and 9 trade exceptions just to move Duncan Robinson to the Spurs. They don't care if the trade makes sense. Only that it's legal. The value's questionable, but I got the salaries to match and kept both teams under the first apron. That's the prize. They are fueled by the belief that every role player on their team is secretly worth 2 first-rounders and a young prospect. Lakers fans will trade Rui and Gabe Vincent for Joel Embiid and call it a fair deal, because Philly needs wings. Heat fans want to swap Duncan Robinson for a lottery pick and act surprised when the world laughs. They talk about picks like they're cryptocurrency. Top 8 protections, pick swaps, deferred rights. It's all part of the trade language. You suggest a trade for Laurie, and they'll snap back. Not for less than 3 unprotected firsts. Remember the Rudy Gobert deal? These people treat the 2027 pick protections like sacred scripture. They live in Reddit size r/NBA trade ideas and on X, sharing screenshots of 6-team, 10-player trade proposals that look like conspiracy theory flowcharts. Someone always tries to trade Andrew Wiggins for 3 rotation players and a first-round pick, and someone else always reminds them that the Warriors are already above the second apron. And by the way, that's not how sign and trades work. Every trade is a galaxy brain experiment. They'll say things like, okay, hear me out. Rockets get Zach LaVine, Bulls get DeAndre Ayton, Lakers get Kevin Durant, Clippers get Bruce Brown, Portland gets D'Angelo Russell, and the Nets get 3 picks in Marcus Morris. Everyone wins. Everyone does not win, but they wrote a 10-paragraph explanation about it anyway. They don't just build trades, they build empires. They'll recreate the NBA landscape like they're Napoleon with a laptop. They'll fix your team's cap sheet, rebuild your roster, and explain how you could have landed Mikal Bridges if you just included that 2029 second rounder. No one asked, but that doesn't matter. They already made the post. They believe the trade machine is a mirror that shows the true NBA, not the product on the floor, but the one on spreadsheets, in front office war rooms, deep inside luxury tax projections. For them, watching a game is fun, but refreshing SpotRack's team salary page is spiritual. So when you see someone tweet, here's a 6-team deal where everyone gets better, know that a trade machine maniac fan has just emerged from the shadows. They've got matching salaries, draft equity justification, and absolutely no chill. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.